Your Excellency, thank you so much for accepting our interview. Let me first take us back in time a little bit and go back to that very special period of time in 2003 when China was experiencing this SARS pandemic or SARS epidemic, but people like you did not shun the country away. Rather, you came and visit China during that difficult period of time. Help us understand what made you do that and what memories you can share with us now.
Indeed, 2003, the pandemic at the time, SARS, represented a critical moment for China. And it was at the time, if we try to remember the very moment, it was after the change of leadership, political leadership in China. And it was, in a way, a test if the new leadership could resist economically and politically to a kind of embargo. Because at that moment, because of SARS, China was under a huge pressure. I visited China many times. I knew, as a foreign minister back in the 1990s, I had long discussions with Chen Chicheng and other outstanding leaders of China. And I knew that it was a very important moment for the Chinese new leadership. And that's why I wanted to break that embargo. And I think that my visit had a strong impact, not only in China, but also internationally. But once again, I think that you have to put that in context. For Romania, before 1989, before the changes in the world, in Romania, in China, well, China was what I would say a kind of a safety net, a kind of a very important partner, because Romania had a kind of a special position in between East and West, tried to be independent in a bipolar world at that time. And China was very important, especially in 1968, when the Soviet Union invaded Czechoslovakia. Romania didn't involve in that action, but it was with the support of China that, it didn't have the same outcome with eventually Soviet invention in Romania. But there were some other moments when Romania and China had a very important bilateral relationship. And that's why when you think about 2003 SARS visit, you have once again to put that in context and to remember what the Chinese are always saying. The friends, the real friends are tested when you are in need. The sense was very clear, and I tried all the time to follow that line of thinking about the bilateral relationship. So once again, it's a lot of nostalgia in coming out with this answer.
I think the phrase you meant, a friend in need is a friend indeed, could be translated into Chinese. 患难见真情. That's what we normally say. Yeah, when people come to your help in moments of difficulty, that's true friendship, that's true feelings. China as a socialist country with Chinese characteristics, but also painted as a growing threat, right? And China becoming stronger, of course, it has also more of its interest to protect and to promote in the world. And in that process, there are misunderstandings, there are misperceptions. So where to go next? Do you think this is a temporary period of adjustment? Do you have confidence that things will eventually get back on track? What can be done?
It is a time when everything seems to be taken from scratch. The order created after the Second World War, clear will be replaced. It's clear that Russia seemed frustrated. Several actions of NATO, of the US. The changes in China were also very important. The world before '89 was bipolar, with Soviet Union and United States. Now China has an important role, not only as a member of the Security Council, but as a real great power. And I have seen a very interesting document which was produced by the Foreign Ministry of China, a reality check. It was a long document about some of the accusations made in the United States about the developments in China. And the idea, which in my opinion is correct, is that every country needs to be taken with its own history, its own values, its own problems, its own territory, its own population, issues of various kinds. You cannot impose from the outside your own values on another country. And I think it was an interesting document. But coming back to what I was saying about this new organization of the world, which is now, well, some of the people consider that we have entered in a new Cold War. Perhaps, but we have different actors. And we have not only, a concern on, let's say, Europe and the Atlantic, European and the Atlantic area, but Asia and Pacific became very important, and with a new concern for creating regional security arrangements there, I think it is something that we have to take into account. China has an important role. The United States wanted to move from Europe to Asia and Pacific, so there are a lot of things changing. The West is changing. The East anyway changed a lot. Mm-hmm. China is changing a lot and has an important say in the world of today.
Right. Do you think there's a gap between your understanding of China and the kind of general tendency in perceptions about China? Because you have been to China many times. Not every Romanian had that kind of opportunity. You understand China better and you have a historical perspective as well. Do you think there's a gap in terms of the general public's perception of China, not just in Romania, but in other countries as well?
In other countries mainly. But I remember, I go back again to 1990, to the visit of Minister CGTN to Romania. I invited at a dinner the leader of the opposition in Romania at that time, Liu Xin, and he was criticizing the Chinese leadership at that time. And CGTN, a very wise man that I admired a lot, said, look, what is the population of Romania? He said, Liu said, 22 million. And he said, look, this is,
a city.
The number of the Chinese, being born every year. So we have to give them food, jobs, housing, whatever. So do you think that we can afford to leave them without a control of the society on those issues? And then he invited Adrian Nastase in China. He visited China, And when he came back, he had different views. So I think it is important that for those who visit China, who understand the magnitude of the changes. By the way, I am a member of the independent experts at the CIIC, Shanghai Institute of International Studies, and I visited also Shanghai several times. It's a huge change since I visited before that city, but also Beijing. So I think more, the people see, understand the changes, the standards of living, the policy of the leadership. Well, they will change their perception, which has been introduced in a kind of manipulation, of course, due to the new organization of the world and the kind of interests of the big powers in the media, in social media. So I think it is important to fuel that perception with as much information as possible about China.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, a pandemic has made it difficult over the past few years, but eventually things will open up and there will be more opportunities. Finally, we're running over time, but I do want to get this question. This year, the Communist Party of China will convene the 20th National Congress in Beijing. What are your expectations? What will you be paying attention to?
Well, I know that the Congress of the Communist Party is an excellent opportunity for an in-depth analysis of internal policies, but also of international affairs. I am sure that a lot of new ideas and new measures will be taken with a view of preparing for 2050 as a target.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adrian Nastase, former Romanian Prime Minister. Thank you for your time.